going live. Got it. Get that off of here. Everybody, we are getting ready we have a very special guest, and we are going live momentarily. But I still want to tell you a little bit, or just mention that we are looking to speak with the founder of Legacy 31. We have Miss Tia Payne. So give us a minute so we can get you all up and everybody up on everything. We just want to talk because we're live on YouTube. So we don't want you to just sit there waiting to get completely set up. We have a very special guest. And we are going live. I'm going to go ahead and start. So hi, everybody. How are you? This is LICMC with London, and I am so especially happy to have a special guest. Her name is Miss Tia Payne. Hi, Miss Tia.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. And I just want to thank you for making yourself available today. What you do is very, very important, and it's very special. And I'm so glad that when I reached out to you, you reached back.
Yeah.
So here we are on multiple platforms. And I want to say hi to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, LICMC Radio. And if anybody I missed, I'm sorry. I love you. Okay, so we're gonna start with Miss T. Miss T, you are the founder of Legacy 31. Mm-hmm. And I'd like for you to just tell us a little bit about that. We have so much to talk about.
Yeah. So Legacy 31 is my faith-based nonprofit organization. I do a lot of outreach to the local faith-based community, talking about domestic violence or sexual assault or intimate partner violence. I also have a youth, or teen empowerment, I call it, which is Love is Not Blind. We teach on prevention, healthy relationships, what is consent, anything that as an adult we go through in our relationships, teenagers go through it as well. Youngest starting at 10, 11 years old. So we created a program, age appropriate for each little age group, to where we can have those conversations, where they can ask as many questions as they need to. I hold support groups for women, or empowerment sessions once monthly, where we vibe and we think about survival and getting on the other side of survival, which is all that mental up there. And we talk, we really talk. And then the last part of my agency is I just do corporate trainings as well. A lot of times they'll reach out because they want to know, how do we respond to disclosure? Who do we talk to? What type of resources do I give my employee who may come and disclose that I'm being abused at home, or this horrible thing happened to me? How can I help this individual? And so they'll, partner with me to be able to come in and teach that type of thing. So.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Much needed. Well, do you mind if I tell people how I reached out to you, how I found you? Is it okay?
Yep, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was definitely going through TikTok. And, TikTok has a lot of seriousness. I learned you learn a lot on TikTok. So this is a positive side. But I ran into you, Miss Tia, and caught my eye and my ear and my heart when you were talking about what happened to you as, I think you were 11 years old. And that is what I would need for you, if you don't mind. Can you tell us, is that how you started all this, because of your situation?
To be perfectly honest, that was just another level of why I now do what I do. I grew up in a home where my father was the pastor of our church, but he was also very, very abusive, very mentally, verbally, physically abusive to us. And so I felt like I grew up without a voice. So I actually originally started out as a youth advocate. That was my passion. That was my heart, helping kids. I love that aspect of my job because I was that abused kid. So I grew up, I repeated the cycle. So a lot of that actually started my bid to be like, who talks to people in church going through that? I mean, maybe it was the pastor's wife. Who's going to help her? who's going to tell me? So what I was told was I had to pray and God was going to fix it, which, okay, I believe God can fix things, but I also believe there should have been, how do we get her to safety? What kind of resources can we give her? And so with me being 11, being assaulted by my cousin, that was just an added layer onto all of the trauma that I had already been experiencing as a child in my home. And so that just kind of added to it to another time. I felt like my voice was snatched away from me because my family chose not to do anything about it. I am very thankful that even though our home was very, very toxic and violent, my mom chose to believe me when I told her what happened. And so she was able to see it for herself and get us out of that situation to where I was not put in a situation where my cousin could potentially, try to harm me another time. And so all of those incidents growing up, I grew up to begin being a youth advocate because I just simply wanted to help a child. I wanted to be a voice because sometimes children are so voiceless when, these tragic and traumatic incidences happen in our home. And a lot of times our voice is not the voice that you hear. You usually talk to the adult. And so when I thought about it and doing the work that I did, and then I felt like when it came to the faith-based community, no one wanted to talk to them because they kept God as the focal point, which is amazing. But at the same time, there's always that natural balance to anything spiritual. And so that part, that natural part, here, go to counseling, seek some therapy, that part was not being addressed when it came to intimate partner violence, child abuse, all of those things, that wasn't being addressed by the church. And so because I wanted to address that, then Legacy 31 became that passion that gave me the outlet to address all of those things. So my two worlds collided. My world as an advocate and my world as a believer came into, a collaboration and said, hey, let's meet the need that all of these people need because no one else is trying to meet it.
Whew, wow. I'm so glad that you guys just blessed you to start voicing this situation because a lot does go on. And, a lot of people will see it and I don't know what it is, and I want to talk about the Christian community too, especially because like you said, matter of fact, she's got a book. We'll talk about that later. But like you said, even though your father was a pastor, and all this going on, and all this is going on at home behind closed doors, and maybe some people do know, but it's like it's swept up under the rug, And so you started this very young then. That means you were on the case. You've been on this a long, long time.
Yeah.
What do you have to say maybe to the churches so they can broaden their view? Because I noticed about a lot of things that the church community, we believe in God. We know that we can pray, like you said, and everything. And even sometimes I conversate with people and I will say, okay, I believe in God. We're going to pray. But what about, somebody has a situation? What about reaching out? What about having them call this number? And the feedback that I get is they can do that, but God. So I'm like, why don't you say God and this, not God, but you know what I'm saying? But right. God, so we need to broaden our view, our spectrum on this situation because a lot of people. I had one lady came on Sunday. She talked about her mother didn't help her. Her mother told her she was fast, Yep. And she told me that I think she was abused I think she was about around that age too. Her mother was abused and had her at 12. It's like an ongoing generational thing,
Yeah.
Her mother didn't believe her, so she said she went on. She's a minister now, but she went on to get on crack. And she enlightened people because when you look at a woman or a man that's in the prostitution, she said many of them turn to prostitution. This is what I learned. Like, wow, it just kind of opens your mind up. You just can't judge a person by looking at them. You don't know what they've been through. So I like to know, what do you have to say to all communities, especially the Christian community, on what we need to do to be able to assist in this area you're talking about?
Yeah. When I speak to the faith-based community, one thing that I always bring up is when we think of people and God, who has given these people free choices and free will, God's not a man that he should lie, so he'll never take that away from them. The faith-based community, in my opinion, have a hard time separating God is a good God and horrible things happening to people who believe. And so when it comes to me as a Christian woman in the church working, going to my leadership to say, hey, this thing happened to me, I was sexually assaulted, or my husband is abusing me, the first thing they want to say is, oh, we need to concentrate on God as a good God, and not the fact that as a believer, this horrible thing happened to you. So they always discount my trauma because they think it takes away from who God is. And that's just not the case. God is still good, even though someone made the choice to do something bad to me as a believer. And so for me, churches have a hard time, throwing out the bones of the meat that some people will give them. And they won't take into account that people can be victimized even when they're in the church, even when they're a believer. I always tell people it happens at church too. Let's remember that human nature is human nature in and out of the church. The church does not automatically guarantee someone on the inside is essentially good. It just does not. It just means they simply go to church. And so we need to separate those two. And so that is my argument to the church. And then, church, can you simply just have some resources available, even if you don't want to deal with it? It makes me uncomfortable, and no, I don't want to talk about that. But go talk to Sister Tia over there, and she'll have some resources for you. Let's just have some resources available. Hey, call this number. I don't know what to do. I'm not inviting it in my church to even have the conversation or give Sister Tia the platform. But I do know that she can possibly help you, give you a couple numbers to call. And then in our community in general, stop telling people it didn't happen to them. My truth is my truth. People have a hard time when it comes to, so for instance, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. When it comes to rape, sexual assault, people automatically, because it makes them uncomfortable, just think it's sex. That has nothing to do with it. And so, because I don't want to think of the horrible nature of someone literally taking that choice away from you and forcing themselves on you, in my head, I'm going to dumb it down to just a sexual encounter that you had with someone. And we want to understand that when it's just a sexual encounter, you gave consent. And so when things make us uncomfortable, we shy away from those things and we don't want to have those conversations. And so then we victim blame. Okay, well, if this did happen to you, why did that happen to you? What did you have on? Did you show your shoulder with your tattoo? Were your pants too tight? We always want to victim blame and say it's the victim's fault. You're too fast at 6.
Right.
Grandpa or father molested you. It's because you're too fast. Instead of addressing what needs to happen, even in the family, you want to victim blame and act like it's the victim's fault, that this tragedy, this trauma happened to that person. Because tragedy and trauma, especially of the intimate nature, it automatically makes us uncomfortable. And so we would rather look at you like you did something wrong than address what actually needs to be addressed.
Wow. Okay, now this information is to hopefully somebody will hear this. And like you said, at least get the number. If you don't want to deal with it, get the number. I also, can I tell the rest of the story that I heard your story? Okay, so, and I'm saying if somebody had to intervene, this might not have happened to the other cousin that actually you said saved you. Nonetheless, you said that the person that was sexually abusing you got upset and hit you in the head. I was so shocked. You said they hit you in the head and busted your head. So you still suffered behind this, even though she did come and stop her from doing that. And I'm thinking like what you said, if someone else could have intervened, I don't know what happened to your cousin. You said something happened to her that he got upset, and since he could not do what he wanted to do to you, he did it to her.
Yep.
So this is a situation that goes on, and like you said, because people will say either they put them on the rug or they blame the person, and I've heard that before too with a mother. One young lady, she calls me her sister now, but she, told me what was going on with her, but she didn't even know what her mother was doing. I don't even know if I'm going to get into that, but I should, because you are the person that handles all these things. Mm-hmm. She said that when she was growing up, they had a house where, you can get up under the house. I don't know what you call it, where the ground was up there. And she said the gentleman that would come to her house, and she said she was 7, 8 years old, they would drag her under there and rape her till she would bleed. Yep. She would go in the house and tell moms about it. And her mother didn't even do anything. So I'm going like, if this is constantly going on and you know it, are you selling your child? I'm just trying to figure it out. And this woman now, she's, older my age now, and still traumatized. I heard you saying that too. Yeah. No matter what, I think I was looking at the video. Anyway, sounds like you said, even when you get of age, maybe even when you get grown, this follows you all the way if you can't get any help. Yeah. So even today, she's her lifestyle was different. Maybe the way she thinks is different. Very talented, beautiful, smart person. Achieved a lot, but she still carries that with her. Yeah. So this is what. Can you talk about that? And now we know you. We're gonna pass your number out.
Yes, definitely. So it's unfortunate that, especially we'll say this when it comes to the African American community. When we look at social media and the media in general, we see Black men, being treated so unfairly. Even let's take it all the way back to slavery days, Black men being treated unfairly. And so sometimes there's this burden of guilt on the Black woman to not get the authorities involved. Because I see everywhere how Black men is treated unfairly. And so I don't want the burden of guilt that if I call the police on this person and then, the cops come and they shoot him or kill him or do something that I didn't want to happen. So I would rather take your abuse, look the other way of your abuse, act like it never happened, because I don't want to get authorities involved. This is like a real thing when you literally sit and talk to older women that have been survivors. Why did you never report? Why did you never say? Well, I didn't want the police to kill him. And so I never said anything. And so because that's been ingrained in Black women for so many years, here it is now, mothers who've been abused, my daughter has been abused. That's just a normal cycle of things that goes on. Why would I believe you when no one believed me? No one believed me it happened. So I can't give you that. But then you also have sometimes nothing will ever happen to my child like it happened to me. And I'm always going to believe my child. So you have, one end up here and then one end way down here, depending. But 9 times out of 10, due to the trauma, most times the reaction is is because you were fast, or ain't nothing happened to you, or because I need to survive, I'm giving my child away so I can survive, especially when it comes to young women. This is something that has happened for so many years, but it's always rooted in history that we never really had to experience. It's always rooted in that. It's unfortunate. And I think, that parent should be held accountable. I understand trauma, but trauma doesn't mean continue to repeat the cycle with your child, knowing your child is being, traumatized and going through the same things that you go through. I tell people all the time, when your child comes to tell you that someone has sexually abused them, you should 9 times out of 10 believe them. Kids do not make that up unless they have been primed and all of those things to tell that story. 9 times out of 10, a child is just not going to randomly come up and say, hey, and then it's not they're coming to say, Mommy, Uncle Johnny raped me. No, what they're going to come and tell you is, Mommy, Uncle Johnny was touching me down there and, it kind of felt a little weird. And I don't know. I thought I should tell you. That's going to be their conversation. And most parents, unless you're me, most parents are like, hush, Uncle Johnny didn't do anything like that to you. Why would you say something like that? And so kids are being constantly told, hush, hush, that didn't happen to you. Hush, nothing like that happened. Uncle Johnny would never, Grandpa would never, Auntie would never. And so then they're losing their voices, and the older they get to now start understanding what's happening to them, they've already been shut down when it happened at 5 and 6. So by the time I'm 11 and brutal rapes is happening and this is happening to me, I've already been trained not to say anything. I've already been trained not to go tell or not to report. And so then when I have my child and a cycle, the vicious cycle repeats itself again, I'm training my child just like I was trained. And it's very unfortunate.
Wow. Oh, this is like, this is a big job that God has given you to do, you know, and I'm sorry about the phone ringing. Yeah, guys, I can't stop it. On the other end, we're talking about the people that do the abusing. Mm-hmm. Like how, like, you know, that was really, first I'm going to go back to when you were talking about that. That is so true, which my mind never went that route, mm-hmm. where people are afraid to call the police, especially if it's an African-American man, because of all the murders and brutality that Blacks already experience. So mm-hmm. that puts you into, I guess think it's a catch-22 situation. Well, I can't tell on them because I don't want them to call here and shoot them. They may not even ask them, just shoot them, you know, yeah. Or etc. So this person that, like, you know, they do one person and they go to the next one, then they go to the next one. Seems like they're on a rampage to do whatever they want. Yeah. How can I don't even know what to go next with that, but you know, this person, what can you do with this person? If you report them is the number one thing, but what do you do? Can family get together and talk about this? Like you said, if it was real, if more than one person would care, get together and do something about it instead of lying to yourself and deceiving yourself, saying, "Oh, Uncle didn't do that." Mm-hmm. I have a hard time believing that the mother or the girlfriend or whoever would be true to themselves and not really being truthful. Yeah. Right.
I think they would rather deceive themselves than deal with the issue at hand. Again, it makes people very uncomfortable to deal with sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse, child molestation. It makes people uncomfortable because, first of all, a lot of times people have the misconception that the way that person treats me is the same he treats everybody. And it's just simply not true, or her. It's simply not true. Right. So when I come tell you something about someone that your interactions with them are totally different than mine, we then again have a very hard time believing that this person could do something like that because I've never experienced them do that. Right. Yeah. You still trying to take away my truth of my experience with this individual. Your reactions and interactions with this person has absolutely nothing to do with me, but people don't see it that way. And honestly, I can't even say as a family, let's get together and do something. I would literally press charges on this person. I would literally make them go through the system. And I literally would refuse to pick up the burden of guilt because I didn't do it. Right. You did these things. Yes. You did it. This is why these things are, even if something unfair happens to you as a result of your very vulgar treatment of someone else, it happened because you did this thing. You did this thing, not me. And so for me, my thought process is, and all the parents that I've ever worked with, I've always told them, make sure you report what has happened to your child. For one, you're showing your child that I had your back and I'm going to give you an end to the trauma that you experienced. Trauma has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Most people, we're stuck right here in the middle because no one has ever helped us to try to close that chapter. And most especially when it comes to children, and most especially when it comes to family abuse. People carry that trauma because they had nowhere else to put it, but stuffing it in the inside, stuffing it in the inside, and you grow up and you still live in your life as if you have been traumatized because you never got through the trauma. So for me, it's best to show that person, especially when we're talking children, show that child, show that teenager, mom, I can trust my mom to do what's right. A lot of time when we think about kids, mom, dad, you're my protector. You protect me. So when we think of domestic violence, for instance, I'm constantly seeing, my mom, my dad, whoever the case may be, abusing my safety net, whichever parent that is. Someone's constantly abusing my safety net, the person that I feel like can protect me the most. Eventually, I don't see you as safety. And so the same thing occurs when we're talking about sexual abuse in children. Because you did not do anything for me, and kids think logically, they didn't go to jail. Mm-hmm. Next time we had a family dinner, they was here. Kids might not necessarily understand that, uncle and auntie and grandpa and all of them bum rushed him or whoever the person was, and they may have done their own justice. Kids don't understand that because you did this horrible, horrible thing to me. And now you're at the dinner table 2 weeks later having dinner with the family. And then everybody tells me, hush, don't talk about it. So then I still walk away feeling like I did something bad because I can't utter the word rape. My uncle raped me, and then I had to sit next to him at the dinner table. But I don't understand that they might have beat him within an inch of his life, which, okay, that's what you did. But for kids, they're not processing all of that. They're still left feeling as if, I did something wrong. Something's wrong with me because everybody tells me to hush when I mention what Uncle Johnny did. And so for me, I say prosecute. I say call the police. I say do what's necessary because it helps in that trauma. It gives a closure. Let's go to therapy. A lot of times I've been in situations where parents will prosecute, but they still don't want to talk about it. They still don't address it. It's still something that's taboo at the dinner table. And then we still don't go to therapy. We still don't go to counseling. And so yet again, here I am still feeling like I did something wrong. And it's not your fault at all.
Well, that's a heavy burden to carry. I will also, I don't know if it was on your site that I read, but it looks like they say so many men are, a lot of young boys also are in the same predicament. Yes. So can young men, this is for women, but can men also come to the organization too?
Yes. So I have an open door policy. It does not matter who calls me. I will work with anyone. Because I am a woman, I have actual women's ministry as part of my organization. But especially like when I talk about my youth program, we have boys come. If someone, I'm small. I'm not the big agency here in Summit County where I live. And so some people are just more comfortable talking to someone that looks like them and someone who's smaller. I've worked with pastors' wives, quite a few pastors' wives.
Wow.
So they're not calling the local battered women's shelter. They're going to call a Legacy 31 who's a smaller organization. I pretty much work on my own. So not a lot of people will see their face. For all intents and purposes, we're just out having coffee. No one knows what we're talking about. And so it's I hate to put it this way, it's an embarrassing thing. It shouldn't be, but I was there. In my first marriage, I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anybody I was being abused. I was ashamed. And that's because we tend to pick up the burden of guilt, like we did something. Like it's at some point, it's time to give that burden back to the person who actually committed the crime. I didn't do anything. I feel guilty like I did something. And so sometimes they will choose to come talk to me instead of going to a bigger agency where more of their information can get out.
Wow. And then that kind of brings me to, part of your mission is you're saying you can speak out, but you're in a safe place. Where That's what you're saying. You can come to a safe place and feel free to talk about whatever the situation is and not get a backlash on it, not get judgment for it, and it's private. So I think you're like in a good spot for everybody, because a lot of people don't want to go to the big institution, like you said.
Right.
And as you say, speak to a lot of women that are pastors' wives. That is wow. That is something else. But I know that I can believe every word that you're saying too. I'm a PK kid too. So happen. I didn't see anything like that going on in my house. But
Right.
yeah, but I know that, people think because you come from a Christian background, and sometimes the PK kids in the pastor's household is turned upside down more than a lot of others. And it's this perception of people. You're a Christian. Oh, I know everything's good in your house. And you start talking about daddy was like this, mama was like this, daddy did this to mama, and he even did something to his daughter or his son. It's just still, that's just twist your conscience. And it's like an unbelievable thing. Like, why is this happening?
Right.
Why is this happening? And also, I remember as I was growing up, and some women, the pastors' wives, even Christian women at the church, would complain that my husband keeps beating me. He's beating me. And the pastors and the wives would teach them, well, you stay with him because God doesn't want you to leave that marriage. You have to make that marriage work. And I said, but if he is beating on you, hurting you, and some people probably even die from that. It could possibly die. And so, I don't know.
Wrong teaching. That's what I was told. I was told that in my first marriage.
Wow.
God doesn't like divorce. God hates divorce. And I'm thinking like, well, who's supposed to help me?
Right.
And so they're like, sometimes they're teaching, stay in a marriage, or, another thing that they do is, oh, let's come in for marriage counseling. Why? So I can go get beat when I leave?
Yeah, because you said something. You got to go back home with them.
Yeah. So I teach churches to advocate for safety first. Like we get the victim to safety as we're praying, asking God for a way of escape, asking God for peace in this situation. God, do something different, change his heart as we are getting the victim
Amen.
to safety, And so a lot of times they don't like when I say that. I'm not discounting who God is, but I also know God does not want us to be abused. That was never his. God hates violent men.
Yes.
So many instances in the Bible where he talks about men who have oppressed. God did judgment. Pharaoh, and so why is it in this day and time we think God is okay just because it's a marriage tag on it for someone to be abusive in that marriage to someone? That's not at the essence of God. That's just not who he is. And so when churches are teaching that is wrong teaching. I mean, I don't care how they slice and dice that is wrong teaching, period. That is wrong teaching. And they keep a lot of people in a situation that could eventually get them killed by teaching that. And when our faith is attached to that,
yes,
I want to be pleasing to you. God, I want to be used by you.
Yes.
So if my leadership is teaching, that I got to stay because God is not pleased, my faith is very in tune with that. And 9 times out of 10, I'll stay and continue to be abused. And that's not what God has for us, period. He does not have that for us.
Wow. Oh, well, I believe that what we're doing now is going to reach out further. I know you do. Now you're located in Akron, Ohio.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And that's a beautiful thing that you are there. Now, if someone decided to call your number, you can refer them, right? Like did you have a toll-free number? I'm not sure. But if say somebody sees this message and they say, because what you're saying, speak out, call, do something about it. You're not alone. With the agency such as yourself. So someone that was saying California saw that and they just said, look, I might want to reach out to this lady. Maybe she can help me. That's a doable thing, right?
Yes. So typically, like I've had people that are not local to me call my number or text it or send me messages from my website. And usually I'll do like a crisis intervention with them or like a quick safety planning. And then I will get them in contact with their local agency that will help them. Sometimes, like I had a call, matter of fact, I had a call yesterday, and this lady was local. She simply wanted prayer for her situation. She
Wow.
said, I was driving down the street and I seen it's a place here called The Well. She said, I seen it and something urged me to go in there. And I went in there and I was telling the lady behind the counter, like, hey, I'm going through this and I need some help. And I just felt like I should have came in here. And she said the lady was so excited to give out my card. It was a card with my services on it.
Yeah. Okay.
She said, I guarantee you this lady can help you. And so she called the young lady in question. She called me and we talked a little bit, but we prayed. We prayed. Sometimes people simply just want somebody to pray with them and come into agreement that their way of escape will be peaceful. You know, and if and that's the first thing on my services card is prayer, because I'm not saying stay there, but I am going to pray with you that God offers a way of escape, and whatever we can do through this conversation to get you to safety, including our prayer, that's what we're going to be doing.
So that's what's different about you. You have everything. You have the prayer and you have the help. And I think that's what the ministries. Now, are you a minister too?
I will preach and teach all day long, but no, that is not something
Yeah.
that I
Okay,
have.
we're gonna say yes. Yes, you are. Amen. You have women's ministry. Um, I'm just really elated and proud to be able to meet somebody like you. Because you're taking it, you're balancing it out, and you're making it available easy. When you say prayer, a lot of Christian people are going like, I'm gonna go to her like she just wanted prayer, but if anything goes any further, you know what? We know she's gonna come back to you so
Exactly.
you can assist her some more. So
Yeah.
I think you are a wonderful place. It's a very, very comfortable place to go. And at least talk to you. Now, I also saw on your website, which I signed up for because I was trying to get to you. Then I think I signed up for a class, but I'll take it. You, I noticed that you have, if people go to your website, they can sign up, get an account with you, and then you also, I guess you do it on Zoom, that you have counseling or classes on Zoom. Mm-hmm. So I think that's pretty awesome. That means anybody can reach out to you any place.
Yeah.
If they need that hand to hold them, they're at the end and they need their hand to hold them, and they can go to you. And I think it's so good because what can the Christian community say? When you are a grand example of how it's supposed to be anyway. Yeah. And as we know that you are putting God in the forefront of this thing, and you have everything else. You just don't have, I'm gonna tell you about God, and then I'm going home. Yeah. You handle it. And if God gonna fix this, and if he don't, something wrong with you, So I hear all these stories. I'm like, and my thing is, I feel like I'm one of those persons that would like to continue to spread this word, especially in the ministries, and maybe, hopefully, they will accept it. But I see that this has to be repeated, and repeated, because it's like, hey, you listening? Mm-hmm. Hey, you listening? And so we got to get through and let them know that, we as Christians, you cannot be, God, like I said, God don't want us in this box. He wants us to have be able to handle everything. Mm-hmm. God put the doctors here. Like, what does the lady say? Like, if you have an emergency with the doctor, you're gonna pray about it. But if your loved one, if they bleed profusely, what you gonna do? Lord Jesus, then you gonna sit down? No, you're gonna take them to emergency quickly. Exactly. That's the same thing as what you're saying. This is an emergency. You can pray and then pray on the way, and then take them over to Legacy 31. Okay, and then you can feel like, okay, God. See, another thing I want to say is, we all are held responsible that don't do that. Mm-hmm. If we're just preaching, and so maybe if they can think of it in that manner, as a pastor, as a Christian, as a leader, if somebody comes to you, you're really held responsible what happens to that person. Yeah. And then we need to do all that we can do, right, to help them, pray with them, definitely prayer, and then, but go ahead and usher them to a place of safety, and don't think they should be bound. It's like being bound to something. Yeah. So, now you have a book, which I got the book. I have a digital book. Y'all can get the digital book and read it, and I still have to go through it because I hope that we can talk again. Mm-hmm. But you want to tell them about the book? and how they
So,
can get it?
yes, my book is called Reflections of a PK, or Preacher's Kid. And so it really talks about how I grew up, and how, as a pastor, who my father was. Yes, he was the pastor of our church. Yes, people in our church knew. Sometimes people, lay people, if you will, feel like they can't say anything. And so there were times when people would come to our house, and my dad had got to a point where he just didn't care anymore. Ultimately, though, I have to put this disclaimer. My book has nothing to do with coming against the church or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
My book is my story of what I
Right.
experienced and things God began to show me when it came to how people in church viewed things that happen in the family of church people. And so the prime example was me as the preacher's daughter, who my father abused us. No other way to put it. He was very, very abusive. My parents separated for years. When my father came back home when I was 9, and I'm talking like my mom left my dad when I was probably 18 months, and he came back at 9, he came back still just as abusive, just as abusive. And it wasn't until he came back home that he then began to pastor within a couple years of being back home. And the whole entire time he was abusive. He never changed. He was always abusive. He felt it was his right we were his family. If he felt it was his right to abuse us as he saw fit. And so my book kind of shows that, but it also shows in every instance of my life where God made a way for me, even as a child, how he made a way for me. And although my father was who he was, the foundation to have that relationship with God came from an abusive pastor.
Mm-hmm.
But that
Wow.
foundation was there. He created that foundation, the
Yes.
teaching, some of those things that we had. I'm not saying God didn't use him, because God used who he wants to. He can use this phone if that's what he want to do.
Right.
God uses whom he will. And so I do believe, that my father had that word in him and had that understanding of God in him, that he would be able to get that out. But I also believe, because at a certain point, when you don't fully submit yourself to God, that's all I'm gonna say.
That's all you say. Amen.
But
Oh,
yeah.
so you want to, because I want to have another question to ask you, but the book, can you tell them tell them the name of the book, how they can get the book?
Yes. So my book is actually available on Amazon. I sometimes don't really tell people that, because I like to drive the traffic back to my website. Because
I got it from your website. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I got it
No,
off your
no, yeah,
website.
no, that's fine. So I have a digital print on my website. It's $5. And as soon as you pay for it, it sends you a link, and you can download, the digital copy of my book. But I also have copies that, if you want the actual copy with me writing in the book,
Oh, okay.
you can buy the copy, and then I will ship it out to you. Or, if you want to, I'm not sure how, maybe a couple days, if you're a Prime member, Amazon will get it out to you. But it is available just as the paperback on Amazon. But that way, it also affords me the area of where I can go purchase my own author copies and sell them when I have events. I have them in my
Okay.
office for
Okay.
purchase, or on my website for purchase as well.
Okay. So I want a book with your signature in it. So I guess I guess I'm gonna have to do that too. So I can do that so if I go online, or you want me to talk to you to ask you about that.
For getting the purchase of the book?
Purchase the book and then you sign. I mean, does that happen at your website too? When you
Yes, yes.
you'll see it.
So yes,
Okay.
I push everything. The reason I actually push everything to my website is because when someone enters in domestic violence services, I want to start popping up. And
Okay.
so
Okay. That makes sense.
if people are constantly going to my website based off of the keywords and all of those things I put together when I did my website, Legacy 31 begins to pop up. Like, you put the message, so it starts popping up. So that's why I choose to push as much traffic to my website as possible.
Okay.
Because I want people to know that, yes, although you can go to a big name agency, there is a faith-based agency. Because some people simply just want somebody to tell them that Jesus still loves me, even if I'm about to leave my abusive pastor husband.
Oh,
I still
wow.
love him.
That is heavy. So the website I know is www. Can I say it? That's where I signed up at. So I was actually, like I said, I'm trying to get to you so I can ask you a question. And then I said, I turned around and got an email back. It says, you know, so you're scheduled on the 12th I said, whoa, okay. So that means I can still go, right?
Well, so what
Or do
happens
I?
is a lot of times I've been thinking about taking off the scheduling on my website because most people actually call me. And so sometimes I'm doing scheduling outside of my website and
Okay.
it get funky
It's
sometimes.
okay.
So
I got
yeah,
it. I wasn't trying to do that. I was trying to ask you a question. But
yeah.
anyway, you have all these things available just in case. Um, so you got the book. We encourage people to go to your website, which I was getting ready to say www.legacy31.org.
.org, yes.
www.legacy31.org. And
Mhm.
you can scroll through there and see so many things in here. I saw, and I had to print it out because I said, well, it has something to bounce off of. He has something that she survived. It aims to change the narrative once a survivor story at a time. She's clothed in strength
My
and
shirt
dignity, and
here.
she can laugh
Yeah.
without fear of the future. I'm like, wow, that's nice.
Yes,
I,
so She Survived was kind of birthed because, well, basically through my story, I began to tell my story. And it started occurring to me that, man, I survived. Like I didn't survive so much. And so I thought, how many women have been in my shoes and no one ever told them they were a survivor?
wow.
And so
Okay.
I began talking about She Survived. I worked with someone to come up with the distressed lettering, but then it's surrounded by the boom that glitters. Because I think that's how God sees us as his daughters. Like, yeah, you've been through the fire, but you still coming out shining. And so we have a annual luncheon where we eat good, we make connections, and we heal. And it's always a survivor that actually speaks at the luncheon. And when I say survivor, I don't mean you're simply just out of the relationship. I mean your mental has caught up with you being a survivor.
Right.
Because
Right.
if mentally we're still stuck in that same place, then did we really survive, even though physically we might be out of that situation? And so for me, when I finally walked into survival, my mental had caught up. Like I literally, my mind was renewed. And that was a choice I could make. And a lot of people don't understand that when we're thinking about, a renewed mind. God said that's a choice that we physically can make to renew our minds. And so
Okay.
for me,
See?
I had to renew my mind and think of myself as a survivor. I've survived all of these things, all of my trauma, and God loves me. He cares for me. He calls me his daughter. I'm clothed in strength and dignity. My future is bright and joyful. And those are the things that I began to tell myself. And before long, I'm walking around like, what? I survived. Like, listen,
Wow.
she survived.
That's
And
all
so
right.
it just kind of, it caught on from there, and became a ministry that I have. We do our women's empowerment. We have our annual luncheon. We just different things that God has put on my mind, when it comes to reaching out to women who've been where I've been, especially when it came to our faith. And so that's really what She Survived is about. And I love it. I love how God has been using me in that area because all I've ever wanted to do was help people. That's it. I just wanted to help people. And so I'm thankful that I'm in a place that he can use me to be
Wow.
able to help people. And by having that renewed mind, he's given me the ability to use what he's given me to help somebody else.
Amazing. That's so amazing. I'm looking through. You have something. Joy comes in the morning. Vibe lesson.
Yeah. That
Um.
part. So a lot of times things happen at night.
Oh.
When I heard my parents fighting, it was at night. When my ex-husband would come, it was at night. When sexual abuse happened or child molestation and all of those things, it happens at night. I used to have a hard time sleeping at night. Any little sound, I instantly awake, fearful, scared. And
Mm-hmm.
so many of the women that I work with, they feel the same way. And so joy
Wow.
comes in the morning simply means that. Joy comes in the morning, like God has something so much better for us. His mercies are new every single day. And so joy comes in the morning simply means that God got joy for us. Even if at night, even if right now in this dark space, I'm struggling, joy still comes in the morning. So we're going to get that going. This will be the first one I've done this month, the 21st.
Okay.
That's the first one we'll be doing. I revamped my support group that I had to really start working with women who deal with that. And then I wanted to keep it, exclusive, and I wanted to keep it small. So I opened it up to just 10 women. I think I got 4 spaces available for this month, because as soon as I posted it, 6 people automatically signed up.
Wow.
And I just told God, I said, God, whoever comes, there's no cost or nothing. I just, again, push traffic to my website. So I have you register and just bring a treat. I've found in my life, if we can sit down over a treat, a cup of coffee or something like that, the comfort of being able to heal is there. And so we're going to, sit, we're going to talk, we're going to vibe, and we're going to heal. We're going to get on the other side of survival is what we're going to do. So,
wow. That's awesome. We have about 10 minutes left, and there's so much I want to get through your book, and I would like to meet for occasionally, so we can keep this fresh in the mind of the people. I have more questions. So I can have more questions next time.
all right,
statistics and all that. So if you're available, I'd love to do this again. Can I read your mission statement?
Yes, please.
Okay. The mission statement says one of our goals. Is that the right one? One of our goals?
That's my mindset on it.
Oh, that's yours. Okay.
The statement was right underneath that.
Oh, the mission. Let's see. I think it cut it off. Oh, maybe not. Mission statement, Legacy 31, through education, advocacy, prevention, and community outreach will work to silence voices, to make silent voices of survivors heard. The need of a survivor to have a safe space to speak loudly and unapologetic while being supported as they continue to heal as God intended will be a reality through Legacy 31. That's beautiful. I'll read yours too, it's okay. This is Miss Tia Payne. One of my goals as a founder of Legacy 31 is teaching and advocating on the importance of supporting the whole survivor. One way we do that here at Legacy 31 is taking no account the effect one's spiritual relationship has on their healing. Faith plays a crucial role, which is you already were saying that, plays a crucial role for survivors. That's where survivors will try and regain some sense of normalcy and healing as they work through the trauma they have experienced. And by having more faith-oriented services for survivors, we are being trauma-informed in our approach to their overall need for services. So you got God is giving you a whole package. This is what we need. So we're gonna you're the blueprint for others. They need to follow you, and maybe like you said, because you're here, and if a pastor, maybe because like you said, they don't know how to handle it, they still can refer people to you. So maybe that's a shoe in. That's good. So we have ministries and services and other programs all week long. So if you don't mind, I'm going to mention you.
Yep.
Because I do mention the suicide hotline. I also remember mention something dealing with the RAINN, RAINN. I think you might be familiar. I mention this now.
Legacy 31.
I'm going to definitely mention you while we're doing, and I think that's a perfect place to do it. Even if you are ministering, you don't know who you're ministering to.
Right.
The other ministers I work with. So when you have this type of information, then the ones I'm with, maybe they can open up their minds too. Say, okay, we're going to pray, but we're going to we're going to tell you to call Legacy 31 too.
Yeah.
The whole package. Now I know God will be pleased, absolutely pleased with that. So as time gets away from us, is there anything that you would like to say before we see you next time?
First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to, allow my voice to be heard on all of your platforms. And then, just encourage anybody out there who's dealing with domestic violence, even if you don't call me, there are so many different places that you can call. There's the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That number you can call, say you're in New York, but you don't know what local services are available for you. That number will get you hooked up to whoever is in your area that can provide shelter, all different type of things. So there's so many things out there, and we sometimes just don't know. And so if you do need help, even if you see me today and you're in that situation and you don't know what's available for you, reach out, because I'll help you get to what's available where you're at local. And then, call me back and we can sit and we can vibe, and we can talk healing, and we can talk how much Jesus loves you. And so ultimately, anybody I work with, I want them to walk away knowing that Jesus still loves you. It doesn't matter what choices you've made, what choices someone has judged you for and been upset with you for. At the end of the day, Jesus still loves us, and he wants his absolute best for us.
Amen. Now, that's one thing that was in the back of my mind. I was trying to get up. So my focus now is the people that commit these criminal acts. Is there some place or something where they can go if they know they have an issue to get some help for themselves?
Some programs actually have, it's called prevention. So some programs have prevention available. Like I do prevention, but I do prevention with youth. So I want to catch them before they repeat the cycle. So that's my area of prevention.
Wow. Okay.
But there are some actual local domestic violence agencies who do prevention for the perpetrator as well. They'll do classes, they talk anger management, they talk therapy, they talk all of those things. They talk domestic violence facts, they talk how it affects children. They do all of those things as prevention as well. Some court systems, like domestic courts, they do prevention programs as well. So it just kind of depends where you're at. A lot of people don't gravitate towards prevention because they feel like, how can I serve the victim and the perp? And so some programs won't gravitate towards prevention, but prevention is making some headway, because when you think prevention, you think preventing before it happens, and that means youth, and that means making sure education is available.
Okay.
So prevention is making a bigger name. So it would just be a matter of making some calls to see. I've worked with abusers before. We always err on the side of abusers don't want to change, but I even with me being a survivor, I still believe in the power of God. And so I do believe, that if someone has a change of heart, and that's what it boils down to, a change of heart, I believe God can save anybody, even an abuser. And so I have seen that with my own eyes, although I do work mostly with the survivors. And so if there is an abuser who, like, God, I need something, call Legacy 31 and we're going to point you in the right direction.
Wow. So we love you here. And I'm sure we love you everywhere. And thank you for being on TikTok telling your story, because I know a lot of people can have related to you. I've seen all the people relating to you. And also, I'm so happy because you keep bringing God into this circle. And that's what's needed for people to hear that you can be a Christian, you can be a pastor, but you still can find another another ways to help along with your prayers. So I really appreciate you so much. We got a couple of minutes. Do you want to give your phone number by any chance? So people call you?
Yes. So the number that you can call is 330-362-9527. You can text that number as well. It reaches right to my cell phone. It pushes everything over when I'm not in the office. I really try to pay attention to that phone as much as possible. I will be honest enough to say that, after I consider what my business hours is, I do try to, distance myself from work so I can be home for my husbands and my babies, and just be present at home. But I always respond back. You can send a message on my website as well. There's a on my services card, there's another number on there as well that you're able to utilize for like text messaging. Some people, especially in the wake of COVID, some people feel more comfortable texting.
Right. Okay.
Nowadays, text, texting is a big thing. And so I
Yeah.
offer that way of getting in contact with me as well. So the number I just mentioned, 330-362-9527, you can call or text that number and it will get you right to me. And as I grow, Lord willing, in the next couple of years, I'm gonna find an amazing grant that will fund the whole Legacy 31 program that I have in my head, and then we'll be able to man our crisis line without it just being on me to man, which is why I have to make sure I have business hours. But eventually, I want to bring it to where it's 24 hours, to where people can contact us.
And what was on my mind before is donations.
Yes.
How can people donate to you?
So if you go to my website, legacy31.org, on every single page down at the bottom is a donate button. You are more than welcome to donate to that. I am a full 501c3 nonprofit, so you can write it off as far as taxes is concerned. Everything is tax deductible. I can provide receipts, all of those type of things. When God gave me the vision for Legacy 31, he gave me a business mind to go with it. So I made sure everything was in order for people who do, and people do donate. And so I'm able to give out those receipts and they are able to write it off and do all of those things as well. So you can PayPal it. Hey, nowadays you can even donate on Facebook.
Sure, you're right. You're right.
So many different ways. I have a Cash App. I don't particularly like to use Cash App, but people are comfortable using that. So I do have a business Cash App, which is Legacy 3125. And it pop up with my logo and a little business thing right next to it. So you're able to do that, or through PayPal for donations. And then if you would like that receipt, then you can just send an inquiry on our contact page, and I can email your donation receipt back to you so you can use it for your 2022 taxes.
So it's because I know, boys, this person is Cash App, and it's quick. So it's the $ and Legacy
3125.
3125. I know if you put it in there, it'll pop up for you too. Is it titled under? It would just say Legacy 31 when they see it, right?
It'll say Legacy 31, but it may just say my name as well. I've not sent anything to it, so I guess I don't really know if it says my name, or it's a business account, so I'm hoping it would say the actual business. But if it does not say Legacy 31, then it'll definitely say my name, Tia Payne.
It's Tia Payne. Well, it's been a great. Thank you for your time. I know you got some more work to do before you go, but I appreciate you now, and hopefully we'll talk again. I have some ideas for you. I'm going to text it to you if you like it, so we can help you continue to push along and even get out there all the more. Yes. You're on a big platform when you're on TikTok. That was big. Yeah. So now you're on everything right now, and this is going to be everywhere where anybody can see it. And I'll send you the link so you can see it.
Oh, definitely. Thank you. Yes. As far as TikTok, if you guys want to follow I do share my story on TikTok, and it's at Tia Payne 41 on TikTok. You're able to kind of follow my story, sometimes I just do, today's tip for domestic violence, whatever God lays on my heart at any given time, I choose to share it. I was very surprised I ended up with the following that I had on TikTok.
It was good following.
I wasn't expecting that. I was just sharing. One of my clients actually said, I think you should tell your story on TikTok. She said, your story is so powerful and it helped me at a time when I needed help. And that's honestly, why I started using TikTok to begin with. I said, okay, well, another platform to get it out there so people will know help is available. And it took off. So I'm thankful for that platform. I have a lot of people from TikTok reach out.
I've seen it in my own eyes. Okay. So I'm gonna let you go. Thank you. Have a very blessed day. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. LICMC Radio, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and this will be on my television. I have a TV show here. I have a television show in Ohio, in Toledo, Ohio. But I don't know if you can get it, but people call from that sometimes. So we're gonna put this out so they can look at it on there too.
Perfect.
Well, thank you. You have a blessed one, and we will stay in touch. Have
All
a good
right.
night. Bye bye, everybody.